The Rams just gave Matthew Stafford $55 million, and somehow it felt like a goodbye. Because teams don't draft first-round quarterbacks unless they're preparing for something, especially smart teams, especially Sean McVay. And now, one of the NFL's most respected quarterbacks is entering the most uncomfortable stage of football life, the stage where the league starts preparing to move on before you're ready to leave. And the strangest part? Matthew Stafford still looks dangerous. That's what makes this feel different. This isn't a washed quarterback hanging on too long. Stafford can still make every throw, still scare defenses, still walk into playoff games and completely change them. But the Rams drafted a quarterback anyway, and deep down, everyone knows what that means, because football never waits for the ending. It starts preparing for life after you, before the story is even over. For years, Matthew Stafford lived in one of the strangest places any superstar quarterback has ever existed, respected, but never fully embraced. He threw for over 5,000 yards before that became normal, dragged terrible Detroit teams into relevance, played through injuries most quarterbacks wouldn't survive, and somehow, football still treated him like he needed to prove something. Then he got to Los Angeles, and almost immediately, the entire football world changed its opinion. Super Bowl, huge throws, game-winning drives, validation. It was like the NFL suddenly realized what Stafford had been the whole time. But even after the championship, the feeling around him still never felt permanent. And maybe that's because Stafford's career has always carried this strange emotional tension, like football respected him without ever fully belonging to him. Now the Rams are making that feeling impossible to ignore, because this move tells two completely different stories at once. The extension says, "We still believe in Matthew Stafford." The first-round quarterback says, "But we're thinking about what comes after." That's the uncomfortable reality every aging quarterback eventually faces. Not immediate decline, not failure, time. Because eventually, every quarterback stops being the future and starts becoming how much longer? That question changes everything. Now every Stafford hit feels heavier. Every injury report creates tension. Every underthrown deep ball becomes a conversation. Not because fans want him to fail, because football becomes obsessed with predicting endings before they arrive. One bad hit, one missed month, one playoff collapse, and suddenly the future arrives faster than anyone expected. And now that feeling is starting to surround Matthew Stafford, quietly. You can already sense it. The way broadcasts talk about him, the way people discuss the Rams' future, the way every season suddenly feels framed as one more run. That emotional shift is hard to reverse once it starts. Just ask Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers. Eventually, the league starts planning for the next chapter while you're still trying to compete in the current one. And maybe that's why this Rams situation feels heavier than people expected, because Stafford isn't finished, not even close. You still see the arm talent, still see the fear he puts into defenses, still see flashes of the quarterback that won a Super Bowl the second he escaped Detroit. That's why this story feels emotional instead of tragic, because the replacement conversation usually starts after the collapse. With Stafford, it's starting before one. And honestly, that's probably what makes the Rams smart, cold, but smart, because football moves brutally fast. One season, you're the answer. The next season, your replacement is already standing on the sideline, waiting. And the terrifying part? The Rams might be right. That's what makes this story uncomfortable. Because eventually, there's a moment where every quarterback still believes he can win, while the organization quietly starts imagining somebody else. Not because they hate you, not because you failed, because football survives by moving on early instead of late. And now Stafford is standing directly in the middle of that moment. That's the pressure surrounding Matthew Stafford now. Not proving he can still play, proving football shouldn't move on yet. And maybe that's why this next season suddenly feels so important. Not because it's definitely the end, because for the first time, you can actually see it coming. The Rams gave Matthew Stafford $55 million, but drafting a quarterback in the first round changed the feeling around everything. Now the clock feels real. Now every game feels heavier. Now football is watching one of its most respected quarterbacks fight against the one thing no player ever escapes: time. Because the NFL never stops moving. Not for loyalty, not for championships, not even for quarterbacks like Matthew Stafford. One day you're the future of football, and the next, your replacement already has a locker.